What's up, everybody? Welcome to Aspire Sports Show. I'm going to be your host today, Gigs, and I got Ryan here with me, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the NBA Draft 2020 edition. Ryan, how do you feel about this draft? You pumped?
I'm excited. Like, I feel like during quarantine, you get excited for like the littlest things when it comes to like sports and like this pandemic as a whole. I don't usually get this excited for an NBA draft, and I know this is kind of like a lackluster class, but all around, I'm pretty excited for the NBA draft.
I couldn't agree more. I need my fixing. I
Yeah,
love drafts. Draft season is always the best, and this was supposed to happen months ago.
right.
Um, it's been delayed, and some people say it's one of the most under the radar drafts. For me, it's been something I've been Googling every other day. It's like, when's it happening? When's it happening? So I'm glad it's finally here. We're finally going to see who goes number one. There's been a lot of talk about who's going to go number one. But before we get into that, I want to talk about what's been going on around the league right now. There's some breaking news that just came out earlier today that Klay Thompson had suffered a lower right leg injury during a practice. Um, that injury was to his right leg, not his left, which is what made him miss all the 2019-2020 season. There's no timetable of how long he's going to be out or how severe this injury is, but it's definitely something you want to keep an eye on because that might change what they do tonight in the draft with the second overall pick. Also, Al Horford, he was traded for a protected 2025 first round pick and a 2020 34th pick and rights to, I'm not even going to try this guy's name. I'm going to just call him Micic, Serbian point guard. He's 26 years old, and that was for Danny Green. And that now gives OKC 4 picks in this draft this year. Ryan, do you think they're going to maybe try to trade up in this draft? Do you think they're going to get crafty with these 4 picks? It's not that strong of a draft, like you said earlier. What do you think they might be up to?
Yeah, I think they get crafty. And beyond this year, I mean, I know they're loaded in this year's draft, but overall for the next like 5 or 6 years, they're absolutely stacked. So I think they get creative with those. Presti's turning out to be and kind of showing year by year that he's one of more creative. And as of right now, I mean, I know they're just draft picks and nothing certain, but looking like one of the better GMs in the league. I'm looking at it right. I'll just kind of, if anything comes through, I'll kind of just blurt it out. I know we were just talking about that trade, but Legion Hoops Ross is tweeting that the Warriors and Knicks have discussed a trade that send the second overall pick to the Knicks. The Knicks have the 8th and the 23rd pick. Obviously, 20 minutes to the draft, so something to keep an eye on.
Now that's
Hey,
interesting.
real quick, we got a question in the chat.
Oh, we got a question in this chat, folks.
Do you guys see this? Do you guys see it or no?
I'm pulling up our chat right now.
Okay. He wants to know if you think that the Golden State Warriors strategy changes.
The strategy.
I don't know who's picking. Yeah, I mean, just look at I got the kids in the
So
background.
I had them trading their pick to begin with. So I don't really think they need to take anyone in this draft with the second overall pick. I think it makes more sense to trade it. Now, if Klay Thompson were severely injured, they would maybe take a risk on, I would probably say Anthony Edwards if he was there, just because how talented he could be. He's got Russell Westbrook, Donovan Mitchell athleticism, and he's a strong, big 2 guard who can probably guard the 3 if he was asked to. But I don't think they're going to get too crazy with the pick. Probably like we just brought up that they might trade it to the Knicks. I think that makes a lot of sense because the Knicks, they could use Ball or Anthony Edwards. That would make sense to me.
I will.
Ball.
I'll add this. I saw it a little bit ago. The Ball family, they're kind of out there and they don't really hide what they're feeling much. On LaMelo Ball's Instagram story, he posted something that said, "Look at my fingers," and he kept flashing the 2. So maybe he's in on knowing that the Knicks are trying to move up to 2, or if the Warriors stay put, that could be a pick there, leaning from them thinking that maybe there's a larger issue at hand with Klay Thompson if they think that's long-term or something that he'll never like come back to fully. They could be looking at guard there. So I'd definitely keep an eye on that 2 pick for LaMelo Ball. And that's just because they're leaving this he's just doing this kind of stuff. And he's probably knows something that most of us don't know as far as where that 2 pick what team and what that might be where he's going.
So let's talk about that. If the Knicks were to take Ball at 2, that would mean the T-Wolves aren't taking Ball at 1, or that pick is going somewhere else if the T-Wolves aren't keeping it. Do you think the Wolves keep the pick, go with Edwards, or what do you think is going to happen if Ball's supposed to go to the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, I said in our chat before this, I think Edwards is the pick at 1. I just think Wiseman it's like the little bit of the uncertainty. I like Wiseman. I like Edwards going 1 as the guard to Minnesota. Obviously, I think you said that you have different thoughts, so kind of curious on what you're thinking there. So I like Edwards at 1, but I mean Wiseman's obviously solid as well. But with Cat already there, I don't see the need as much for the big compared to a guard.
No, they definitely don't need Wiseman if they already have Cat. I would agree with that. And the reason why I don't have Edwards going there is because I personally think that D'Angelo Russell plays better as the 2 instead of the point guard. I think he's a true scorer. I think he can handle the ball if you ask him to, but having a true facilitator on that offense who can bring out the best in D'Angelo Russell's offense and Karl-Anthony Towns' offense, I think that really helps. And I think Ball is the kind of guy who can make that happen. And I understand that Ball doesn't play much defense at times, but him and Karl-Anthony Towns, they'll fit just right in together. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't play much defense either. And I don't really know if this team needs offense. I mean, that's what they are missing is defense. And if you were going to go that route, I don't see Okoro. I wouldn't take him because he has like no offensive game. It wouldn't make sense to go that high. But
Right.
The thing about Anthony Edwards, this is what's concerning to me. It came out there was an article saying that he doesn't even like watching basketball. Quote, "I can't watch basketball."
Yeah.
And I find that interesting that somebody who is potentially going to be the first overall pick in a draft can't even stand watching the sport that he's playing. And he said, "I'm still not really into it," end quote. And then he said, quote, "I love basketball. Yeah, it's what I do," end quote. I mean, which one is it, bud? You say, "I'm still not really into it." And then you say, "I love basketball. Yeah, it's what I do." Are you in it for the money, or are you in it to win it? And this is the sport you want to play? Because he later in that article said if the NFL called him, he would drop what he was doing and go in the NFL immediately because that was his first love. Kyler Murray, he could play either sport. He could go in the draft in either sport. And it was really tugging at his strings. Do I play baseball or do I play football? I mean, he ultimately picked football, and just today they were talking about how he sometimes misses baseball, and that comment's fine with me. He could be the top prospect in both, but why? Like, football shouldn't still be on your mind. You need to be fully invested in this, especially if someone's going to go out and take you number 1 overall in a draft. You need to be that franchise player for them. That they're treating you like a blue chip player. Your heart needs to be in it. And I question if his heart's in it or not. And I hope he hears this and he's like, "I'm gonna prove that kid wrong." Because I know he could be really, really good. He reminds me so much of Donovan Mitchell. And that's why he is projected to go number 1. Right now, he's actually the betting favorite to go number 1 in Vegas. But, yeah.
Where you guys got Frukerson? Is that how you say his name?
Frukerson. Maybe late lottery pick, end of first round. What about you, Ryan? Where do you have him?
No, I'm around the same. If we're some guy I want to like keep an eye on, I guess the best thing to say is like keep an eye on him because I think he ends up kind of being one of the surprises of this draft. I like RJ Hampton. He was like one of the best prospects coming out of high school, and he didn't go the college route. He kind of like took that time to train, kind of like similar to like Ball, but Ball, obviously the balls are just like how they think about doing these crazy things. Like he went overseas and stuff. So I like Hampton as like a surprise, like late lottery, later in the first round type pick that I kind of like as an NBA type player. Do you have any guys like that, Gigs, where you're just kind of thinking they're like they're being slept on right now?
The guy that I originally thought people were sleeping on, but has moved up in a lot of mock drafts is Sadiq Bey.
I remember, yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Robert Covington. He's a 6'8", D&3 small forward. He can guard basically 1 through 4. He's a good ball dribbler. He can pass the ball. There's really nothing wrong with his game, and he shot over 40% in college. That was a high volume as a sophomore, so he's not too old. We have a decent sample size on him. I think he's an immediate plug and play in the NBA right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he went somewhere like Phoenix. They just shipped out Kelly Oubre. So maybe they make room for a D&3 guy like Sadiq Bey, who I guess that would land him at 10 because Phoenix has the 10th pick. But
Yeah.
that's someone that I think could be someone who winds up being a little bit better than where he gets drafted. But I think 10 might be fitting for him. Another guy I really like, though, is Tyrese Maxey. I think Tyrese Maxey is just very smooth. He's a very smooth scorer. He's a freshman out of Kentucky, and he's projected to be in like the 14, 15, 16 range. So he's a late lottery pick, and there's just something about Kentucky guards. They're hit or miss, but when they hit, you get a Kyler Murray, Jamal Murray or Devin Booker, like those guys, they're just studs. They're walking buckets, and they're now franchise players. And they didn't go top 5. You know what I mean? They're late lottery picks out of Kentucky, but you don't want them to wind up being a Malik Monk. But I like Tyrese Maxey.
One question I have too. So we kind of have a feel for how the top 3 are going to go in whatever sort of order. I mean, it's widely regarded it will be some sort of order of Edwards, Ball, Wiseman. How do you think like 4, 5, and 6 pan out with Bulls, Cavs, Hawks?
So for the Bulls, I like their roster already. I like Kobe White at point, Levine at shooting guard, Otto Porter. We don't know what's going to happen. Lauri Markkanen at power forward, Wendell Carter center. That's a young core. So the only thing I think he would address is maybe point guard or small forward, because Kobe White's more of a scoring point guard. Maybe you want someone who can move the ball around to your main scorers like Markkanen and Zach LaVine. So maybe Tyrese Halliburton, because he's just a great like field general. Well, I guess there's a different word for it when you're in the NBA, but he's very good at seeing 1 play ahead, 2 plays ahead. He's got that high basketball IQ. He's very creative with the ball. He might be able to elevate every other player on that team's game, maybe be like a Doncic for him, where you bring out the best in everyone's offense. And if they don't go that route, I could see him taking Avdija, small forward, power forward hybrid, because I think if Otto Porter were to leave, you're going to need someone to fill that 3 spot. And he's a pretty good passer as well. Good ball handler for his size. So I think those 2 would be a good fit for the Bulls.
Yeah. I think 4 and 5, unless obviously with this draft not being any sort of like top heavy a little bit, but nothing like surefire, like makes a ton of sense. You could see I feel like this is the area where you could see some trades start to get a little wild and creative. The Cavs obviously have a bunch of like, they're kind of the opposite of the Bulls. The Cavs kind of have these old guys that are sitting on bigger contracts when they're trying to get young, where the Bulls are already kind of like young and just looking for more of that veteran presence. So I think somewhere in the 4, 5, 6 is where we start to see some movement there. People moving up to get a guy like Toppin, or that, do you want me to try to say his last name too? Denny Avdija. I think I feel like 4 and 5 are where those 2 go off the board, whether it's someone trading up. I know there's chatter between the Knicks and the Cavs. It seems like the Knicks are everywhere right now. But I could see also the Cavs moving back to 8, the Knicks moving up to 5, and them getting their guy, whether it's Toppin or if
So we
someone
got
falls.
a couple questions here. What do you think about Tyrod Frukerson and then LaMelo going number 3? Agree or disagree?
Oh, okay. Lots of comments loading up.
You can take Ferguson.
And then who else do you think who's going number 1 real quick as well?
I think Edwards goes 1.
After what he said about the Knicks and Ball, I'm going to go ahead and say Edwards is going to go number 1 as well.
All right, how
Yeah.
do you feel about
Yep.
these questions in the chat?
Ryan, tell them what happened, because maybe that person doesn't know what happened
With
with
what?
Ball,
With the
or like what he did on
Ball?
Instagram.
Yeah. So
LaMelo, go ahead.
I'll mention it with LaMelo. I said it earlier. I don't know who was in here and who wasn't, but LaMelo posted on it. You know how the Balls, I mean, they love the spotlight. They like being out there. They're not really holding anything back. On his Instagram story a little bit ago, he posted a video or a picture, and he was holding up the number 2 and said, "Look at my fingers. Look at my fingers." So I think he knows something we don't, whether it's I haven't seen any trades come through, but if the Knicks are moving up to 2, or the Warriors think that the situation with Klay Thompson might be a little serious and they want to get another guard in there, I'm thinking Ball goes off at 2, and this is why like this meant something. So that's why I'm going with Edwards at 1, because I just don't see the fit there with Wiseman going 1.
I'm agreeing. I would agree with you. I do not see Wiseman going number 1 either. It just would not be a good fit. As far as this Tyrod Fukerson, I know no one of that name. Edwards 1, 2, Wiseman 3, LaMelo Ball. Good top 3. What would I change? Personally, I was telling Ryan earlier, I think Ball to Minnesota would make the most sense. He could take over the 1 and move Russell to the 2. I could understand why they'd want to take Edwards, because he looks like he's the best prospect in this draft. So Edwards 1, he's the favorite in Vegas. Let's stick with that. Wiseman at 2 makes sense because Golden State needs a big man. But does Golden State belong at the number 2 pick? No, they're not in rebuild. They just had a really bad year because of injuries. So what they need is someone who can help them now. I think Wiseman's more of a project, although I think he can be good this year. He could be like a Chris Bosh, a little bit taller Chris Bosh in the future, but not right now. And I could see them trading that pick so they can get something else to help them win now, although they will need a big to guard Anthony Davis.
And if something crazy too, I mean, I saw a report earlier where the Warriors were talking about in talks with the Bulls for them to swap, plus obviously add something on the Bulls end. So the Bulls moving up to 2. If something like that happens, I mean, I guess Wendell Carter was going to be involved in that deal. So then you would think the Bulls moving up, they take someone like Wiseman, the Warriors fall back. And then I think at that point, since we're talking about the Warriors window being now, then you could see like someone like Obi Toppin going off the board at 4, because he's the most NBA ready of everyone in the draft, or widely regarded as such. So if something like that happens, look for the Warriors to fall back to 4, Toppin going off there, Wiseman going 2. And I guess in that scenario, then you do get something like Ball falling to 3 if we're sticking with Edwards at 1.
Yeah, I definitely think those 3 will be gone. I think when you get to 4, it doesn't matter if the picks were traded or not. You'll have Edwards, Ball, and Wiseman gone after that. And then as far as the like next 3, 4, 5 picks, they're kind of a toss up, but I would say Halliburton, he'll definitely get drafted. I think he's a very, very good point guard facilitator. You want that. I don't know if he'd go to Atlanta. They have pick 6. So here's the thing. I think Halliburton's going to go because he's such a good talent. But if you look at Cleveland, they have pick 5. I don't think they're taking a guard because they went Garland and they went Colin Sexton the past 2 years. Yeah. And then the Hawks, they just went and got Cam Reddish and Hunter. Reddish is a 2, Hunter is a 3. You have Trae Young at the point. Do you go and get another point guard? I know Jeff Teague's on his way out, but do you get another point guard? And I don't know if they would take Obi Toppin. I don't think that would make sense because you have John Collins and Clint Capella. So it's weird. I really don't know what to expect from 4, 5, 6. I think Obi Toppin might go to the Cavs. I could also see him going to the Hornets, but what are your thoughts on Obi Toppin? Because he's someone who's all over the board for me. I can have him going high, could have him going as late as like 2021.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think when with this draft being so weird and kind of it uncertain with this, like the season and the tournament that didn't happen, I think people have a lot less to go off of. But one thing that seems to be pretty certain across the board is people view him as an NBA ready person. That's why I don't know if I necessarily see him falling into the 20s, because at some point I see one of these teams that are maybe a piece away or a bench piece away that are contending right now. They move up to make a trade to get someone like him if he starts to slip a little bit. I don't see him falling past the Knicks at 8. If everything were to stay still and the Knicks are at 8, I think that's the spot where he comes off the board at. And like I said, that's with no trades happening. The Knicks aren't moving up, moving back. I mean, if the Knicks move up and grab someone else that they like a little more, well, then obviously you could see a slip like that falling further. But if everything stands at where it is, I think Toppin goes, I would say no further than 8. I think I think the Cavs like him a lot, to continue to get like a more NBA, a polished person in there with those two young guards, that their growth, the Cavs need more out of those two guards. I mean, they drafted the two guards. No one seemed to make sense of, no one liked the Garland pick last year because Sexton had just been brought in as a guard. So they need a bigger body in there. And obviously Obi Toppin fits the build for them. I just think they're going to try to get younger, and I don't know what they're going to have to get creative with Kevin Love's contract, Tristan Thompson as well. It's a mess in Cleveland right now. And I think that pairing him up with, or Obi Toppin up with the two guards, is the thing that I see it making the most sense for the Cavs. The avid Denny, I'm just going to call him Denny. I think that one makes decent amount of sense. You always get nervous with overseas guys coming into not the flashiest of cities, a situation like Cleveland. But I guess you take what
no
you
one
get.
wants to play in Cleveland. Let's just
Yeah.
be honest. Nobody wants to play in Cleveland.
Yeah, and the key part
Just
of all
one of
this
those
too
cities
that
that
we
are
don't
also
know, that we don't know what they say in the interviews that they get, because obviously all these teams up top had interviewed most of these guys, and they know they know where the level of interest is with these guys. Most of them don't come out in reports, but I guess we don't know what goes on behind the scenes with that kind of stuff. So you hope that all these front offices did their homework to know if a guy would really want to be there long term or not. And if they didn't, well, then then they should hire us to do that part for them, because obviously we know the importance with guys leaving after 5 years once that rookie deal's up, because they don't want to be there, and they should have known that all along.
I would love that job.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
You don't have
sweet?
to ask me twice. Yeah, I can definitely see Obi Toppin going to the Cavs, because Tristan Thompson's future, obviously, that's up in the air. I can see him keeping Larry Nance over Tristan Thompson because he provides more. Andre Drummond, I don't know what they're going to do with him. His contract is huge, and he is just archaic for today's NBA. All he can get you is rebounds, and he gets you offensive rebounds, which is nice, but he isn't as great on defense as people make him out to be. He's a good anchor down there, but at the same time, that's not really what you need. You need someone who can space the floor, and you want to make the lane open so you can slash. I mean, look at Clint Capella. He got shipped out just because it wasn't a good enough fit. They wanted to be able to play a bunch of guys who can shoot the three, just stay in the corner, play one-on-one basketball. It's a shame it's what it's come to, but he's just not a fit for today's game.
Right.
Yeah,
not bad picking up optional for $28 million. I think most might opt in for that one. I'm pretty sure it was like $28.7 million, the option he picked up.
Yeah. Freaking ridiculous. These NBA contracts are just
yeah.
And I just want to correct real quick. I had Obi Toppin going 4 to Cavs. That doesn't make sense. Cavs have the 5th pick. The 4th pick is the Bulls, and I apologize. So pick 6, we talked about that. I say the Hawks. I don't think they're going Halliburton, although I've seen a couple mocks with him going there. I can understand why, but if you were the Hawks, who would you want at 6?
I don't know. That's when I think I mentioned it. I think that's right around this area where it starts. I can see the shifting of it. I mean, the Hawks aren't like you mentioned. They're kind of developing that young talent already. I think John Collins is pretty underrated.
Love John Collins.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't necessarily think that. I mean, they're not too far off. They could use like a veteran presence. So that's when you can see someone like that, like a trade up and getting a player plus a pick. Maybe a scoring piece for the bench if they want to go best scoring, get a decent sixth man. I don't know. I don't think the Hawks are too far off. I think Collins was hurt most of last year, and that derailed. No, it was suspension, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got caught using PEDs.
Yeah.
He's a beast. He's going to be a free agent next year, and I hope they re-sign him. It was troubling when they brought Capella in. I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do with that, but with Jeff Teague leaving, I guess if they were to address a need, I would keep Collins, Capella, and then just work on that 1, 2, and 3. Just add depth to 1 and focus on 2 and 3. So I'm going to say Halliburton or Killian Hayes, because those would be my next 2 point guards that I think would go because of how talented they are, how good they would be immediately for this team. Isaac Okoro, though, I think he could fit for that team. They need someone on defense. D&3 player, maybe. His shot's bad, but he's good passer, good dribbler, and is lights out on defense. Probably the best defender in this draft, who I originally had going to the Knicks at 8, but if they're trading up, I don't think he's going there anymore. But I had him going to the Knicks because Kevin Knox has not been the answer at the 3 for them. I think this is kind of a contract year for him. If he doesn't prove that he is what he is in the summer league, he's not going to be there much longer. I don't think Julius Randle or Mitch Robinson is the future either, although Mitch Robinson has shown promise as a really good defender.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with guys like him and Jaren Jackson who foul out all the time. If you foul a lot and you just can't learn how not to foul after a couple years, it's usually like you're never going to learn this. So
We got reports coming in. Edwards is going to be the first pick.
all right, folks, Edwards is going to be the first pick. So if your sports book is still accepting bets, you got to get it in right now. Please do not hesitate. Go lay about put 1,000 down on that right now, folks, because if Ball's going 2 and they're not trading the pick, it's Edwards number 1. You got 2.5 minutes, folks. You heard it here first. I don't know what the odds are.
Shams is the one reporting it, so I mean he's usually on top of things. So
Bam. Until it's a Woj bomb, it's never official.
Woj tweeted a minute ago that he did tweet that it's going to be Edwards, but he also tweeted like 3 minutes ago that they were still fielding calls for the 1 pick. So I think I don't know.
I'm just trying to think who would want to trade up for that. I hope the Pistons do something real stupid like that, and then Blake Griffin would be like, I'm definitely out of here. That team is just so sad. The trade they made last year, the Drummond for Brandon Knight, who they drafted like 5, 6, 7 years earlier. Like, hey, we want him back. Here, have Drummond. That just upset me. That made me stop being a Pistons fan, and now I root for the Hawks because I'm a John Collins, Trae Young believer.
There you go.
Frukerson is going top 5. Breezy, I would love to see Frukerson go top 5. I have him going around 6 or 7. If he can get in the top 5, that'd be great. But we'll see. Draft is only a few minutes away, and we're going to find out. Free Frukerson. How about that? All right. We got anything else you want to add, Ryan, or do you want to wrap this
I'm
baby
good.
up?
I'm ready to wrap it up. I'm curious to see where a lot of these guys land. It'll be fun to watch sports again every night when the NBA comes back.
Well, alrighty, folks. Thanks for joining us for this NBA draft preview. If you like this video, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you subscribe, click the like button.
Subscribe.
Follow us on any of those social medias. We got good content. We're on there all the time. If you got any questions, we'll ask or we'll answer them immediately. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and folks, enjoy the draft. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.
Peace.